What's going on, guys? It's your boy Anthony alongside the best Big 3 account in the universe, Big 3 News, aka Will, back with another edition of The Fourth Man, coming to you after a jam-packed weekend of the Big 3 and the games. Week 2 was just sensational, numerous headlines, just to name a few. I mean, we had big-time celebrities pull up to Vegas and had record-setting day, just a great slate of games that went on. We're going to get into all that, the recaps, and then also give our rapid-fire predictions for next week. It's going to do a little pretender or contender early on in the season. I know it's only week 2, but we only have 8 weeks of the regular season. So if you really look at it, we're already a quarter of the way there exactly. So we're going to get into all of that. But first and foremost, my guy, Will, what's good, man? How was the weekend?
Do I say it, And I'm just going to say it.
Ooh, okay.
I think this weekend was probably the greatest weekend of Big 3 basketball we've ever had.
Facts.
In the history of the league.
I couldn't agree more.
From game 1 to game 6, It was the greatest weekend we've ever had. And I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm not just saying that because we're back. And I just feel like every single game was awesome, except for like one.
I think the Tri-State Bivouac was the only game
but it was still. But Jason Richardson had a fantastic individual game.
It was fun, yeah.
And he dunked, and it was fun. There wasn't a single game I feel like that dragged this week. In fact, a couple games went like super fast.
Yeah, and I felt like guys were more on their P's and Q's. I don't know if it's just because it's the second week or because it seems like it's so quick to establish chemistry, but you got to, I guess, in an 8-week season.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Maybe it's the fact that maybe it's like the same arena. I don't know if maybe that helps a little bit. But yeah, I just feel like this was such an awesome week. From Trilogy to Three-Headed Monsters to that last game, the Aliens and Ball Hogs, it was just great games. And I feel like every game had like a crazy highlight. And I just feel like we got so many memorable games this week. I feel like we got a season's worth of memorable games in this one weekend.
Yeah. We're going to try to recap them as concisely but efficiently and exciting as we possibly can, because that's just really how the weekend went. Before we get into all that, I want to make sure you guys are following our socials at Fourth Man Pod, at Big3 News, at @A_Siggy, especially on game day. I've been tweeting out a lot more on game day than
you've been doing such a good job on game days, bro.
I'm trying so hard. So we'll talk about it a little bit more, but I got to go to Vegas this weekend, obviously, as you know, and trying to do that just on your phone between trying to take pictures and doing more Instagram stuff and updating, a lot harder than it looks. So shout out to all those social media coordinators that do that on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis, because that's tough. If you want to find the show or watch the show on YouTube, it's youtube.com/fourthmanpod. And for those of you guys listen every Saturday on Dash Radio and the Nothing But Net channel, we appreciate you guys as always. Hopefully you're a listener from weeks past, but if you haven't been rocking with us since day one on Dash Radio, it's your first time. Hey, we're still early in the season, so you can catch up on everything here, and you can tune into the games next week as well. All right, let's jump into the week 2 recaps. I just want to start really preface the recaps by talking about some of these headlines here. Okay, these are the headlines of the weekend of Saturday and Sunday. So they played on both days this weekend.
These are headlines that you created, or these are headlines that you pulled from other places?
They're not, headlines. I just want to say they're more of like the highlights of the weekend.
Okay.
I guess I should say. I didn't create any headlines. I didn't get that creative. But basically, this is what happened this weekend. That was major. ISO Joe set a single game record with triplets the day they got their rings, 34 points and a comeback victory, which we'll talk about more. Ball Hogs is 2-0 for the first time ever. Back-to-back bring the Fires in a game for the first time ever in that same game. And that man, Kanye West, pulled up to the Big 3 game. And despite the fact that it was only for the last 5 minutes of Killer Threes and Threes Company, it was pretty damn cool. To be honest, I couldn't believe it. I thought it was fake. It wasn't. That was really Kanye.
Not fake.
So that's pretty wild. That's the kind of weekend we had, really. And we'll just get into our first game, because the first game of the day I thought kicked us off in a great way. We had Three-Headed Monsters and Trilogy. I think 2 of the more exciting newcomers of the year really into this game, and Kevin Murphy and Isaiah Briscoe. Kind of a quick start for Trilogy, really, but they did that without Isaiah Briscoe. You know, they got the return of James White. I felt like for Three-Headed Monsters, it took them a minute to get going, and ultimately that might have determined their fate early on. They end up losing 50-43 to Trilogy, and a team that we prefaced last week that could be a championship contender. But, I mean, both teams looked pretty solid. What were your thoughts on this game to kind of kick off the weekend?
Yeah, I thought it was a really cool game. You know, I feel going into this, these are two pretty evenly matched teams. And I knew one team was either going to, you know, I feel like this game could have went a couple ways. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if this game came down to the final shot like we saw in some of the later games. But I feel like both teams really had the opportunity to come out and make a statement if they blew one of them out. And I feel like it was really not necessarily a blowout, but it was more of a statement from Trilogy the way that they won. Just because I don't think we saw Isaiah Briscoe until, like, you know, right before the start of the second, or right before the end of the first half. And Trilogy, it looked like with James White, you know, they had like a sort of just like renewed way of playing. And then Isaiah Briscoe comes in and just closes out the second half.
Yeah.
So Trilogy to me is a team that, you know, unless proven otherwise, I feel like that they are on a very upward trajectory, that they're going to be at least, you know, in the playoffs. I'm not talking about a 1 seed or a 2 seed, but they're probably the second best team in the league right now.
Man, it's hard to argue that. It was really weird because I thought there were like levels to that game for Trilogy. It was like Amir Johnson got them started, then they got some James White, kind of trickled throughout the first half. Quintel Woods got it going there late in the first half.
Quintel Woods has been a fantastic pickup for them, let me say, by the way. We talked about, you know, how deep this draft pool is, and I don't know if either you or I ever brought up the name Quintel Woods and guys that, you know, should have been there. You know, he's been with the Big 3 forever. I think it was sort of, I'm not going to say a shock, because he absolutely deserves to be out there just like anybody else. But he probably wasn't a name that we had come to mind, you know, especially like the Justin Detmans of the world and, you know, all these other people. But Quintel Woods has been amazing for them.
Yeah, he's filling in for Meta Sandiford Artest too, which I feel like is big shoes to fill. But hey, he understands this league, understands the game really well. And we've talked about how much Big 3 experience can really benefit your team. And by the way, Jared Jack ended the game with a 4-point shot. It was kind of a weird one because it just like dinked off the back rim. But nonetheless, it's always cool to see.
It got flat, yeah.
But it's always cool to see a game end on a 4-point shot because you don't see that in any other league. On the flip side, you know, you had Three-Headed Monsters who, I got to be honest, I walked away with a lot of positives and a lot of negatives, just from my perspective. First off, Kevin Murphy might be one of the best newcomers of the league. I think he's in the race for our newcomer of the year right now. He came out after last week's debut, had 19 points. He came out, had 25 points, and was a big reason why this game was even close down the stretch, in my opinion. A lot of his ability to be a shot creator and a shot maker. But I would say where my concerns lie are, do they have enough like down low or in the post to like get it done? Like obviously they're a great rebounding team. They have the tallest guy in the league and they have Reggie Evans, but there's just not like a lot of offensively that
rebounding is different than post play. Doesn't always necessarily translate.
Exactly. And you want Rashard to be that, but at the same time, he's got to be the wing. You know, Mahmoud's going to make a couple shots for you. I mean, what I'm trying to say is I think this team does have to run through Murphy or Rashard Lewis. I think that's pretty blatantly clear, but I am a little concerned with like how they move forward and if they can get, you know, points in the paint, like easy points in the paint between Reggie Evans and Mamadou.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I will say this, and, you know, tell me if you disagree, but I think, you know, I still think Three-Headed Monsters is a good team.
Definitely.
You know, I think we're not really, more so when I hear you say that, I take that as you're not necessarily saying like exposing the weaknesses of a bad team. You're more so just saying how a good team needs to improve if they want to, you know, if they want to, you know, be front of the pack.
Yeah, you're spot on. And I also think too, they just ran into a buzzsaw with one of the better teams in the league. I know it's already 2 weeks, but Trilogy is a damn good team. They had a really balanced scoring attack.
I mean, you know, I just feel like, you know, looking back on it, like, you know, picking up Jared Jack and Amir Johnson, like, I just feel like, you know, Steven Jackson had a vision where he's like, I'm just going just for like NBA talent, you know, just straight NBA talent. And they have really 3 guys on this team that are probably NBA level talent players.
Yeah.
And I don't know if any other team can say that. Now, that doesn't necessarily translate to a good Big 3 team, but it certainly helps.
Yeah. Briscoe had a team high 13 points. That all came in the second half. And I have to say, arguably the best matchup of the weekend was Kevin Murphy versus Isaiah Briscoe, then going back and forth. That was a lot of fun to watch, especially in person, just them shit talking each other, obviously, and going back and forth, and then just backing it up by hitting shots.
I have to disagree. I think there was another better matchup. But
I said arguably.
Okay.
Quickly.
Well, I'm here to argue.
Okay. Well, that's fair. That's why you're here. Pretender or contender for each of these teams?
Trilogy's a contender.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I think that's easy.
I don't think Three-Headed Monsters is necessarily a pretender. You know,
kind of in the middle there.
I think Trilogy is contending for a championship. Three-Headed Monsters is contending for a playoff spot.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good way.
I think that's the difference between these two teams.
I have to agree too. I don't think I think I saw just enough from Three-Headed Monsters to think okay, they definitely have a shot at making their 5th straight playoff or their 4th straight playoff.
They definitely have a shot.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the game of the weekend, which was Power and Triplets. This is a game that everyone was anticipating. You know, obviously there's a lot of history within the one matchup they played, but nonetheless a lot of history. Triplets got their rings this day, so they wanted to make a statement. And let's be honest, the word around town around this game has mostly come from Royce White saying the champ is here. He's in ISO Joe's head. And he came out and wanted to make that statement. They went, one-on-one to start the game, and Royce White got the better of him. Joe got off to a little bit of a slow start. I think he was 1 for 10, his first 10.
Yeah.
So a pretty slow start.
Can you imagine if he wasn't and he still had that second half? He could have had 50.
God. Yeah. Man, that's so crazy to think about. 50. That's so crazy to think about. And, ultimately, Triplets did get the best of Power this time around, 50-47. They came back from 11 points down when Power was up 43-32. So that's 7 points away Power was from winning that game. And Joe just really filled it up late. He had 24 of the 27 points in the second half. The only other guy to make a shot in the second half was Allen Anderson on a 3. I think that was an assist by Joe. So he accounted for all the points. But this dude was just unconscious in the second half. And arguably the game of the year. Am I wrong?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if we have a game better than this one, it'll be interesting to see where it comes from, just because of the amount of build up to it and just the star power. I mean, you want to talk about a perfect finish. I feel like we see in sports a lot, we always want the star player to score over the other star player, right? Whether it's football, or baseball, you always want the best guy to hit a home run, walk-off home run off of the best pitcher, and it rarely kind of does happen.
Right.
It's always usually a role player or somebody steps up, but this was literally this matchup was built up as Royce White versus Joe Johnson, and Royce White 100% played into it, where he was I am the best player in this league. So I'm going to take it as an opportunity to show that I'm better than Joe Johnson. And then, the whole thing happened at the beginning with the fouls, which, we could get into, which, obviously that third foul shouldn't have been called because Royce White didn't touch him. He was tripped. So that was kind of disappointing to see, but Power still had a lead going into halftime, and they still had a lead with I think it was 43 or 44, right? I think they had
they
a
were
6-point
up late.
lead. They were up very late.
So I made that prediction of Power beating Triplets. I didn't think that would come true. But I wanted to kind of contend with you last week. I didn't want to agree completely, and I was I might actually get this right. Power might actually win this one.
I was like, I can't believe this. I was ready to be wow, Nancy Lieberman does it again.
Yeah.
Losing Royce White, not having Dusan Balut yet.
No big baby.
No, oh my God, that's another thing too. No big baby. So what does this honestly tell you about Power?
That I made a mistake early in the season.
To
question them, because my God, I mean,
these are two damn good teams.
Yeah, and kudos to Triplets too, because Jamario Moon hit some late threes in that first half, and I think Double A, Allen Anderson did a really good job to make sure like they really made sure like them hitting shots. They really made sure that this game was close going into the second half to where then Joe could finally get his rhythm a little bit more. And you just got to give a lot of credits to those guys because as much as we talk about Joe, and rightfully so, he scored 34 damn points in a game that goes to 50. Those guys did keep him in that to make sure that Joe had the opportunity to even go for that and ultimately help them win the game.
Oh, and they're so well coached too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it was ever more apparent of then having Lisa Leslie commentate the games on Sunday. And she's basically just sitting there explaining like what she would do in each situation and like how every team can improve and be more like triplets. And I was like, oh my God, like Lisa Leslie is one of the most brilliant minds that we have in this league. Because the way she was like identifying things, like, no, they should be doing this. They should be setting a down screen here and doing this. Now you know why triplets is so good, because to be honest with you, I think Power from top to bottom is probably the better constructed team. Triplets is just coached perfectly. Like they have Joe Johnson, who's far and away the best player in this team, but they have such a perfect supporting cast, and they all play their roles so well.
Yeah, and the Moon trade was perfect for them. That like really rounded out their team.
Fantastic. That was perfect. And until proven otherwise, the Lisa Leslie system is working.
Yeah, that's the template for success right there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say the quote of the game, the QOTG, was when Royce White, I think it was when they had that bigger lead, telling somebody, I don't know who it was on the first row, but telling somebody that Joe was average. That Joe was just average. This is before he got hot.
Oh, my God.
And I don't know if that lit a fire under him or he was just – because, Joe seems pretty cool-headed, like level-headed, not really talking much throughout the game. But something just clicked after he said that. It was like, oh, I'm average? All right.
Well, I will say, too,
go off.
I don't know, because we watched it, obviously, from, like, different perspectives. Like, I was watching on broadcast. You were there in the stadium. So, like, I don't know, because broadcast picked this up, but I don't know if you guys saw it. Like, Royce White, after that, was just laughing. And he, like, went right over to the triplets bench. And you could tell, like, I was like, oh, like, what's about to happen right now? But you could tell, like, they were all, like, they were, like, shoving him and, like, laughing, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was just, like, like, F me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't believe that just happened right now. Then Allen Anderson went into the camera after the post game, and he was like, oh, the champ is here. The champ is here. And he was pointing at Joe Johnson.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
That's
so
funny.
They were totally, like, I think they have, like, a mutual respect for each other.
Definitely.
But, if Joe took it personally, man, that's scary. then the goal then should not be to piss off Joe Johnson if this is a pissed off Joe Johnson.
Well, I saw that it was on someone's Instagram, a post-game conversation they were having, and it was kind of a similar sentiment where Royce was like, damn, I was really trying to get in your head almost, and it didn't work out. But still, that's not even a
perfect response, though, like, from Joe Johnson. Yeah. Like, they were like, oh, whatever. Like, he's a person who's like, I'll just come out and play basketball. And Royce White's like, God damn it. Like, I've been trying to make it personal this entire week.
And he just leaves.
You're just like, I'm just going to, another game. Yeah.
He wants to live rent-free in his head so bad. It's just like, no one really lives there except for basketball. Just basketball
and yoga.
Yeah, exactly. So 50-47 was the final. Joe ended up with 34 points, 9 rebounds, 3 steals on the day. This one's pretty easy. I think we both are going to say the same answer when it comes to pretender or contenders. Easily, these two teams are contenders.
Yes.
And I think these two teams are both contenders for a championship. I think we both agree on that.
Definitely. I mean, listen, week 3, I think they're getting Glenn Davis back. Week 4.
Looks like Balut is coming week 4.
After that. So, week 4 is really going to be, okay, we're going to be halfway through the season. So that's certainly not an advantage. Mm-hmm. But it's really going to be the second half of the season we're going to know, what's Power all about. And, if Balut is the real deal, which, the more and more I say it, I think it's Bullet.
I think it is too. That's why his name is Bulletproof on Twitter. We've just been saying it wrong forever.
So I apologize for that. But if Dusan is what we anticipate him to be, or what he has been in FIBA, and, he can come into a team that's hopefully 2-1, I think this week is going to be huge for them, because you want to at least be treading water and hopefully be staying above 500, by the time you get Doosan.
Yeah, plus you're playing a team that's going to be 2-0, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But you definitely want to make them come down the standings a little bit. But yeah, I hope Doosan plays. Don't get me wrong. We're an advocate for them, but I just still question that pick at number 3. It just seems too early for a guy who only plays half the season. But if he makes the kind of impact that we think he can make, then I'm not going to question it.
I mean, if we're sitting here week 6 or 7, and Doosan is coming off his 3rd game, flirting with a triple double.
Yeah,
then we're gonna be like, okay,
makes sense. Take him number 1 next time. Got it. Okay. Move on to the final game of the day. The only game that was on Triller this week, and that's Threes Company and Killer Threes. Battle of 2 0-1 teams. Threes Company actually got off to a super slow start in this game. Killer Threes was up. They ran with a 4-man rotation, no CJ Watson for them, but they did really well coming out the gates. Ultimately, it was the Pargo show, the Jeremy Pargo show. I should specify. Jeremy Pargo and 4-pointers go together. Like, I say this every week, like when I try to make a comparison, peanut butter and jelly, like let's just make that analogy again, I guess. But anyways, Pargo was hitting
like
4-pointers.
Biscuits and gravy.
Okay, that's a good one. You should maybe just hit me those before I get started. But Pargo just couldn't stay away from the 4-point line and a 4-point circle, I should say. And he was hitting bucket after bucket, including the final one of the day. He didn't even need 4 points. He needed 2 and was like, fuck it, let me go ahead and hit the 4-pointer for 52. They end up winning 52-45. Killer Threes kind of blow a big lead here. It kind of was kind of a one-man show for Killer Threes, where like last week it was Dante Green. This week it was more of the Franklin Session, Frank Nitty show, who had 20 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists. So solid game by him. It's just like, and our guy Mo Charlo had a really good game. It's probably his best game so far, and then the 2 Big 3 games he's played. But just too much Jeremy Pargo, 22 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 4-pointers on the day, and Chalmers looked really good. Killer Threes is now 0-2. We both had them in the top 4. What do you think the biggest issue right now is for Killer Threes?
That's an excellent question, and I'm not really too sure. I think it's just been a lot of, I don't want to say hero ball, because that implies that, they're avoiding distribution.
Mm-hmm.
But we just haven't really seen, I hate to say it, but, they look like a car without their engine. And that was our biggest fear going into the season, was this was going to be a team that had a great supporting cast around a top 5 player in Steven Jackson. Steven Jackson leaves, you don't have the opportunity to bring in really anyone through the draft. You opt to go and just promote people, so you're really just running back everybody. So who's going to step into that Steven Jackson role? And the answer that we got was, well, no, it's going to be a different team. So it's going to be the same players, but it's going to be a different system. And I think that's just taking a while for them to implement.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, because, sometimes when you bring new guys into a league that you've never seen them in before, like it's like they're rookies, all the rookies that come in.
Right.
Like we don't know what to expect. There's not like a lot of tape on them. The team doesn't have any chemistries or plays they've run together. And I'm not saying, there are some coaches that take it more seriously than others, but I'm sure there are some coaches that have done their homework on Killer Threes throughout the first 2 weeks and they're like, well, we have plenty of tape on them. We know how they like to operate. They're only not returning 1 guy. So we essentially know how they play. Do you feel like that has maybe affected them early on in the season?
I don't know.
That's kind of a stretch maybe, but.
Maybe, maybe against teams like, but I don't know. Against teams like, who was the first team that they lost to? It was
they lost the Trilogy, so they, a really good team.
Yeah, I don't know, man. This to me is just frustrating, because if Trilogy is what they seem to be, then I don't really blame Killer Threes for losing to them, right?
Well, yeah, and their own captain plays for them, so he knows them all.
It seems like It seems like Trilogy is going to be on par with with the big boys this season. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So whatever, maybe Killer Threes, you play that game again, it's a closer game against Trilogy, but it just seemed like they lost to a better team. But this Threes Company team is just concerning, just because this looks like a game in hand and a game that they should have won.
Yeah.
So the fact that they blew the lead and in the fashion that they did, it's just not a good sign. I think they got to do, I don't know. I don't think you hit the panic button. Obviously this is a team that is contending for a championship, but it also kind of reminds me of Three's Company after Baron Davis left.
Yeah.
It just seems
where they
like,
got off to a slow start and it was just too late for them.
That's what I mean. And it's not looking good for them right now, man. It's just not.
Yeah.
Who do they play next week?
So they play Aliens, which is also an 0-2 team. So it's funny that the final 4 0-2 teams are all playing each other in week 3. So that can kind of make or break some guy.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's also a really bad thing.
Yeah.
Because at least some people are getting wins.
Yeah.
And if you're not one of them, then because then the mountain just got a little bit more steeper to climb.
Yeah, 100%.
Killer Threes, you have to win this game against Aliens.
Yeah. On the flip side, Three's Company, big improvement from last week. They at this point we're just saying they played a tough Ball Hogs team, and we'll talk about them a little bit more later in the show. But one thing I heard somebody say that likes Three's Company is everyone was giving us shit because we lost to Ball Hogs, but they're just a really good team, and that seemed to be the case. And I'm not saying Killer Threes is a bad team, but Three's Company definitely looked, once they got off to this slow start, once they found the rhythm and the guards really got going, which we talked a lot about before week 1, that they would kind of anchor the team. It was going to make the engine go. It was going to be Pargo and Chalmers that were making that team go. And once they really got going, we really saw what this team is capable of. It just seemed like everything was kind of falling. The rim was as big as an ocean for Pargo, especially from the 4-point circle. Do we look at them as a potential contender now, or is it just kind of one game and, we'll have to wait and see?
This to me was a classic Three's Company win. All those games were like, oh, Three's Company really hasn't looked that good. And then Andre Emick comes in and drops 20 points. And I'm like, oh, yeah. All right. And Three's Company just won. I mean, they almost went to the championship doing that.
That's true.
So, but I don't know. I just feel like it's a different league than 2018.
Hey, the spirit of Andre Emmett lives in number 2, and guess he's rocking
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, so. Definitely. Oh, yeah, that's funny. He is rocking number 2, right?
I thought he was going to be retired. I really did. But
yeah, that's interesting. No, I didn't even think of that.
Hey, it might be.
But anyway,
it might be benefiting.
There's got to be something about number 2 who's coming. That's kind of cool in a way. I'm sure Pargo's honoring him. I don't think there's anything there. But no, honestly, it's Pargo's great, and when they picked Pargo, we both said even before the draft, we're like, who would fit in like a glove with this team? Jeremy Pargo, and it's right, and he's been great for them. He's been incredible. I mean, I think he is definitely in the MVP discussion, but I don't know. I'm not ready to declare either of these teams contenders yet.
Yeah,
I think
more on the contender side. I think for me as well.
Yeah, definitely.
One interesting thing to keep note of going into week 3, Pargo has already hit 5 4-pointers on the season. He had 2 last week, 3 this weekend. The record is 6 in the Big 3. He's got 5
for a season.
For a season.
Oh, so
that was Mike Bibby in 2017.
Then. So that record is being obliterated then.
Yeah. So right now, if you're wanting to set that record, you're just chasing Pargo. And I don't think that's the last time we're going to see multiple 3-pointers made from Pargo this season. So
definitely not.
Guard that 4-point line, or he's going to beat you to it. Let's move on to day 2, where the first game of the day was one that we had been anticipating. Obviously, I got to meet Jordan for the first time in person in Vegas, and he works very closely with the Ghost Baller guys. It was more of the revenge for Craig Smith game, playing against his former team for Ghost Ballers. But I think there were a lot of interesting implications in this game. Ultimately, what looked like a game that Enemies was going to take control of was altered very quickly. Momentum shifted very quickly once Ghost Ballers, I almost said Enemies, I'm thinking of Craig Smith, but once Ghost Ballers won to bring the fire through Craig Smith, who got an and 1 against Elijah Stewart. From there, that started a 10-0 run. They got 2 points from there, and that started a 10-0 run and ultimately got them to a win. Ghost Ballers moved to 2-0. Enemies are 0-2. And I'm looking at my Bahamas teams, and 3 teams I have in there are already 0-2. So it's Bivouac, 2-3s, Enemies, and Triplets.
Well, I have 2 because I definitely put Killer Threes in Bivouac. So
what I've learned though is I'm just not. I can give you all the updates. I can give my opinions and takes, but when it comes to predicting shit, just just throw me out the window because
Who did I put?
that is not you picked power, I think, as well. That was your fault.
Oh, okay.
So that was a smart move by you. But
Thank you.
Ghost Ballers won 50-44. Another strong game from Mike Taylor, our guy. 25 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 17 points in the first half. It's pretty much the Mike Taylor show in the first half. Enemies came out, really stayed. They really stayed in the game due to Elijah Stewart, who a lot of people know as a shooter. He was just kind of going to the rim and getting a lot of tough buckets that way. And then Isaiah.
Well, that's what I was going to say. This was actually my favorite matchup of the day was Mike Taylor versus Elijah Stewart.
Hey, that was a great matchup. They were going at it. They both had over 20 points. Isaiah Austin kind of came in and looked like he was going to be the closer of that game if they got it done. But that Bring the Fire changed everything. So,
yeah.
And it was interesting because Elijah Stewart was kind of chatting with Gil, the coach, and asking him, like, should we bring the fire? Because they tried to bring the fire earlier and it was too late. So they were like, should we bring the fire? He's like, Stewart's like, are you sure, Gil? Because if they make the shot, they get the ball back. But if we stop them here, we get the ball. And, that one-step jab to his left, and then that to his right just caught him off guard. And ultimately that just changed the whole momentum.
No, that changed the whole momentum. And then Craig Smith's laying on the ground. Mike Taylor's running over doing CPR.
Yeah.
This is a fun team, man. We talked about it, dude. We were like, something's going on with Ghost Ballers. It's like that. It's like that meme. It's like, what's he building in there? You ever heard that? We're like, what's going on with Ghost Ballers?
What are they made of? And
they got something cooking over there, and it's been so much fun to watch them. I don't know if I'm gonna put them on the same level as the trilogies and the triplets and the powers, but I'm like riding the wave a little bit. Like I'm totally on the bandwagon. I'm so excited for this team. I'm so excited for this group of guys. You want to talk about the Big 3 talks about homegrown talent. I mean, Mike Taylor,
a team of it.
This is a team of homegrown talent. So it would be so cool. It's so cool to see them beat and really out hustle and outplay. The team of all the young studs. And especially like all the guys who are new to the league. It's like the shiny sports car. Versus the thing you built with your dad in the garage.
Yeah, and on the flip side. Enemies. I mean, I don't know if it's the panic button just yet, but you said it up front. They never learn, and clearly I haven't learned. But what's concerning to me is like Nick Young in a 5-on-5 setting. We're probably taking him when it's guys in this league. Maybe like if this league was 5-on-5, we might think differently of this team. But in a 3-on-3 setting, I'm a little concerned with Swaggy P. He just doesn't seem like he's able to stay in front of guys on the defensive end, and then offensively, it's like everybody can stay in front of him so easily. Like they're not. I don't know if they're not setting picks well, or he's just not fooling anybody. I don't know if they're not calling fouls just because it's a more physical league. But he hasn't adjusted yet. He hit his first. He scored his first 5 points this weekend, so that's good. He got the weight lifted off his shoulders. But outside of that, it was really just Isaiah Austin, Elijah Stewart. I thought they didn't play Perry Jones enough, which I don't know if that has to do with like just trying to get Swaggy P acclimated and going, but he just never got going. And Jordan Hill just seems like an afterthought. The fact that we even thought he could be a first-round pick almost seems careless on our end right now because he really hasn't got too many minutes. And when he is, it's just like you said, they're being out hustled. I mean,
it feels like at this point, like, I don't know. It just seems like, like Isaiah Austin, Elijah Stewart, let's go start our own team, because they're kind of being held back at this point. Because those are two young, really fun guys to watch. And it's just sort of disappointing just because we talked and we're like, we need young guys in the league, young guys, guys who have the opportunity to come in and use this as a platform to, play in the NBA or play something. And then here comes Enemies with Isaiah Austin, Elijah Stewart. And we're like, this is going to be perfect. Because it's all the big names with these young guys, and it's the big names that are really being the issue.
Yeah, I thought they were going to be the perfect complement, and that just has not been the case. So, they got to
give those two. They got to give them the keys.
Yeah. So
Let
I
the kids play.
I think you run through those guys, and I think Gill will make his adjustments where he needs to. But enemies fall 0-2, and they have a big game coming against Bivouac, which we'll talk about Bivouac here in a second. But Ghost Ballers 2-0, looking good so far, and the squad is looking strong. We'll see if they can continue to capitalize. And I think Mike Taylor's in the MVP conversation right now. Honestly, the way he's been playing.
You don't, or you do?
I do. 100%.
I agree.
100%. And the good thing, I think,
great. Listen, he looked great in the 5 tournament.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
And I don't know, like maybe you said it was Dante Green who played hurt in 2019.
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe Mike Taylor just like his 2019 was an adjustment, but the only reason why like I'm saying that is because like Mike Taylor, his whole thing was he should have won 4th man of the year, you know, which is the best bench player. So you're like admitting you weren't good enough to be a starter. But now, if you told me Mike Taylor's come off the bench, I'd be like, why?
What?
Like,
yeah,
you know,
why?
Like
what I will say is, like, one thing I heard him say a lot is, you know, I think there's a lot of respect he gave Mike Bibby. Like, that was Mike Bibby's squad. And, you know, he was starting a lot of the games. But now that Mike Bibby's not there, you know, you're kind of filling in for where he left off. Like, you're having to add a little bit more to your plate. I think he's doing that and doing a good job at it. And I think that's ultimately been the biggest adjustment is, like, I don't have to come off the bench anymore because the legend and Ghost Ballers is no longer playing for this team. So we can start our new legendary squad and, you know, see where it can take us in 2021. And so far, they're doing a good job of that.
I just feel like, you know, he took it. Like, it's like, you know, it's like Michael Jordan, right? Like, he took it so personal, you know, and we told him, like, he was so, like, you know, he thought he was so disrespected. And, like, even, like, you and I were like, you know, I don't think you were, like, that disrespected. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I thought you played a very good, but he was like, I should have been 4th man of the year. I'm one of the best players in this league. And we were like, all right, like, you know, listen, because everybody says that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you don't know who's just saying that to talk shit, and you don't know who, like, genuinely believes that. You know, but Mike Taylor obviously genuinely believed that he was like, I am, like, you know, or the whole thing, too, is like, I should be a co-captain. You know, and we were like,
manifestation is
real. But obviously he's backing it all up.
Yeah.
So, you know, credit to Ghost Ballers for, you know, I don't want to say taking a chance on Mike Taylor, but identifying how serious Mike Taylor is about this league, about Ghost Ballers. You know, Mike Taylor is Ghost Ballers. You know, and you know, it was always Mike Bibby. But, you know, if Mike Taylor can lead them to the promised land, I mean, you might as well put him on the logo. You know, because he has been all about this team from day one.
Yeah, and he's finally getting his flowers, too, from just other sports mediums or outlets, you know, like
Ball His Life.
Ball His Life. That's huge. I mean, you know, once they're finally just, you know, giving him his props where he thinks it's due. And
that was the other thing, too, that you probably didn't hear on the broadcast, but they took the time to talk about, like, all his charitable efforts and stuff.
Oh, that's so cool.
Like, they shout out his charity, and they were like, oh, like, you know, if you're in the Milwaukee area, like, you know, go to this website, like, you know, whatever. And, like, I just know, like, that was huge for him. You know, like, he is becoming one of the faces of this league.
Yeah. Great basketball player, but even a more humble dude. Like I said, we got to spend some time with him, and just a really cool guy that if he's not playing basketball, he's putting on for his city.
Yeah.
And is using his platform for the right reasons. But I'm just glad he's, you know, getting his respect where it's due. And we'll see what Ghost Ballers can continue to do. Right now, one of the few 2-0 teams in this league. Not something that we called out at the beginning of the year. We think we had the middle of the pack. We felt okay about them contending for a playoff spot, but they're in prime position right now. So we'll see how that continues. Let's touch on Tri-State and Bivouac, which was, like you said at the top of the show, Jason Richardson put on a show for us. Still dunking at 40. Still looks like he's in great shape.
No, he looks great.
They took on Bivouac, who we had really high hopes for coming into the season, and that has just not panned out early. They ended up losing this one.
I dropped them as my sleeper team. My sleeper team's looking real good right now.
Your sleeper team, you switched to Ghost Ballers last second. But, yeah, 50-29 was the final. Tri-State gets their first win of the season. Bivouac loses for the second straight week by double digits. This might have been the biggest loss in Big 3 history, maybe.
It might have been, dude.
Because I know that a team has lost 50-30 before, but they couldn't even score 30.
Well, and also, too, like, I feel like Bivouac had a couple of, like Will Bynum hit a couple of threes late. You know, like when Tri-State was kind of just, like, not playing defense, get the ball back and score, you know. because I remember, like, I think Tri-State was a point game when Bivouac hit 25. And I remember sitting there saying to myself, being like, oh my God, like, they just went into halftime, you know? And then here comes Tri-State getting ready to win the game. Like, that was about as big of an ass kicking as you'll see. And, you know, no disrespect to Tri-State, but at this point in time, I'm more of sort of, you know, is it a message from Tri-State to the rest of the league? Maybe. But I'm sort of more taking it as, what the hell is wrong with Bivouac?
Yeah, and right before Jay Rich dunked, he, you know, when they were up pretty big already, he was calling for an oop on every play. It seemed like they were doing offensively. He kept being like pointing up to like Roten, or I think it was mostly Tony Roten, because I think Nate Robinson didn't really have to play, so I don't think he played a lot. But
Yeah.
He wanted to dunk so bad. He was just finally like, fuck it. You know, just like, I'm doing this. But yeah, a lot of question marks around Bivouac and what they're doing, because we had a lot of high hopes for them. We thought the versatility was going to be there. They've looked a little lethargic.
Yeah.
Not on the same page.
They have, yeah.
You know, Mo Spates is still yet to score in his big three, 2 games with 0, and he hasn't really played a lot. I don't know, you know, what
they've just been using him in just odd.
It's just been using everybody in odd ways.
Yeah.
And, you know, even early in the game, they had Alonzo G starting, and he was instantly subbed out. I don't know if he made a mistake or if Theus just didn't see something he liked, but yeah, no knock to Tri-State, but you know, you and I talked about it, as Tri-State looks like a team that's still trying to find themselves chemistry-wise. There are a lot of guys that haven't really played together outside of Nate Robb and Jay Rich. And
I'll tell you what, though, you know, and that was probably one of the biggest things where we're like, how is Tri-State going to figure this out? But a win like this almost counts as like 2 wins from a chemistry standpoint. Because you go in, you have fun, and you're like, look what we can do.
Yeah.
You know, and now, you know, you're much more inclined to be like, yo, let's go grab a drink afterwards. You know, let's go hang out at the hotel afterwards. Like, it was a great win. Yeah. You know, so, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if Tri-State takes this, and then maybe, you know, maybe Tri-State gets a win or 2 that maybe they wouldn't have if they don't win in the manner that they should have, or that they did.
Well, I think they at least found the game plan on how they do it. Run the offense through Jason Richardson, and I gotta say, the 2 guys they drafted, I had a lot of high hopes for them. I thought it was a reason why Tri-State would be on the outside looking in, at least, is Earl Clark and Tony Roten. They put up 22 points combined. They looked pretty good. They looked like they were finding themselves. Earl Clark looked good last week, but they looked good just as a team. Larry Sanders looked better. It's just really, you know, what's wrong with Bivouac, and my overreaction of them being one of the 2 worst teams isn't looking so bad now. It's just too bad I made that after I already made my predictions for the Bahama teams. So we'll see if there's any adjustments made. You know, I know that you said last week that you think Aliens might be the first one to go out and make some adjustments to their team, but I could definitely see it being Bivouac.
Well, yeah, well, you're hearing different, right? We won't have to say anything, but you're hearing different.
I've heard a couple things.
Right.
But, you know, we'll just leave it at that. So let's move on to the final day of the game. Our 2-0 Ball Hogs and our now 0-2 Aliens. Yeah, our Ball Hogs, as if they're like the team we've been rooting for forever. But man, this is just so exciting. It's so fun to say 2-0 and Ball Hogs in the same sentence. You know, they went out and made a lot of adjustments in the offseason, and they are really panning out. Ball Hogs won 51-42. Aliens kept it close for the most part, but then it's kind of weird because when they brought the fire for the first time, when they went back to back, that was almost like what shifted the momentum from Aliens to back to Ball Hogs. And I think it had a lot to do with like Balkman got hurt on the play, and then he tried to do his own bring the fire, ended up not working out. They flipped places. Barbosa goes at Odin, and he ends up winning that one. Ultimately, they end up winning that game. But Barbosa's looking like an MVP candidate. I really like the makeup of their squad. What did you see from this game that is encouraging for you? And is Ball Hogs a contender?
Ball Hogs a contender, you know. As much
They'd be the ultimate 2-0 pretender. Like I would not be surprised if you said that.
I just feel like, you know, because Ball Hogs, and the same thing with week 1, there were times where it didn't look pretty. Like they got it done, but there were also periods, and it's just hard to tell because like, is this alien team dog shit? Or does aliens just get a tough 2 first games? I don't know yet. I do know that Barbosa is the truth. Barbosa is another one who's absolutely in the MVP conversation.
Yeah.
27
points.
It's just tough to me to say that. I think Ball Hogs play who next week? They play triplets?
They play Power.
So that to me is a
ultimate test.
Huge litmus test.
Yeah.
Because if you can come in and you can beat Power, give Power their second loss in a row in, probably franchise history, then, absolutely I'm going to be calling you legit. But if they go out there and they lose, I just think this is going to be a very good litmus test. Yeah. I've had so much fun watching Bull Hogs. I think Bull Hogs is a great team. I think their roster was constructed very well by Scal and Rick Barry. I think they played great. But otherwise, I think it's, I think next week will tell us a lot.
Yeah, I agree. And I will say this, Barbosa kind of almost screwed them over. He kept making drives to the basket, and they were only hitting off the backboard. And the aliens would just put it up. And I think that's kind of what got them back in the game. So I think, he's still making his adjustments because essentially this has been the strategy for Ball Hogs. We're going to run through our guards, Meeks and Barbosa. They're going to stay on the floor the entirety of the game, and we're just going to flip Hawes and McDonald. And, why I think that's a great strategy, I think they're still trying to work up their conditioning from a 3-on-3 setting just a little bit. I think they're not like out of shape or they're not struggling with conditioning, but I think you're still trying to work your way up, and how much do you exert a certain amount of energy here and there, and what strategies work better? Do we run more through Will McDonald when he's in the game because we know he's a prolific scorer down low?
Will McDonald looked great, by the way.
Looked great. I mean, it's not a shocker that he was picked in the top 4, in the first round for a second straight year. But yeah, it's really a question for aliens. Like, okay, they've played the two of the top teams right now from a standings perspective in the league. How good is this team? Brandon Rush got off to a good start, looked a lot better than he did last week. Andre Owens looked pretty good, looked like the Andre Owens of old. Like, Balkman's a little banged up now. We'll have to wait and see if he plays next week, but he had a little bit of a hamstring injury. What do we expect from aliens? I mean, I guess they kind of have a point to prove too going against the 0-2 Killer 3s.
Yeah, I know. I feel like this is a must-win game for both of these teams.
Yeah.
If aliens, because I feel like aliens hasn't shown me enough where you can come back 0-3. Especially, I mean, we have 4 teams right now that haven't lost a game.
Mm-hmm.
So right there, if the playoffs started today, if you lost a game, you're out. This includes Power. This includes Tri-State. So, one of those teams, chances are one of those teams will probably, come back down to earth a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very possible that 2 or 3 don't, and 2 or 3 sit around 2 to 3 losses on the season. So, I just find it very improbable that really either of these teams, Killer 3s, I could see it happening a little bit more likely. But if you're aliens and if you start the season 0-3, that's it, you're done. And then Killer 3s, if you start the season 0-3, I don't want to say you're done, but you have such a hole to climb out of. It's going to take a lot. So this is a must-win game.
You're right. And if you look at it from the week 3 games, if let's say Ball Hogs does beat Power and moves to 3-0, that's already causing trouble because now you have a team with no losses through 3 weeks. That's going to happen in the Triplets Trilogy game because it's 2-0 teams playing against each other. So one team is going to improve to 3-0. So it's almost like a solidified start. You're already 3 games up against a team that's 0-3. They might not fall back down to earth. Like, there's not a lot of teams that lose 5 straight games outside of the previous Ball Hogs.
If you're 3-0 to me, I mean, barring just like a ridiculous injury or something happening, you might as well like book your tickets to the Bahamas. If you're 3-0.
Yeah,
that's a good point. I mean, because then you have to play 500 ball the rest of the year, and that's what, 5-3.
Yeah.
At the worst.
At the worst.
At the worst.
Yeah,
6-2. 6-2, you're going to the Bahamas.
Yeah.
5-3, you're probably the 4th seed going to the Bahamas.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If a 5-3 team doesn't make the Bahamas, That'll be insane to me. We've never seen that in the Big Three. It's always been like the Eastern Conference. Just get above 500.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're 3-0 to either of those teams, triplets or trilogy, then that to me, then you're set. You can punch your ticket.
Yeah. Let's segue into that. Just want to leave off here that Barbosa finished with 27 points and 5 assists. If it wasn't for Joe Johnson, he'd probably be leading the MVP race right now. But you can't knock 34 points in a Big Three record. So let's move on to our rapid fire predictions real quick for week 3. And let's just go in order here. Let's start with Ball Hogs and Power and a critical game, I think, for both teams.
Ball Hogs and Power? I think, listen, we just talked about it, right? Power lost. Power had a chance to win this game. I think Royce White missed a shot, and I think maybe like Tino Mobley or Joe Alexander missed a shot to win the game. You're getting Glenn Davis back. Glenn Davis has been a great player, super familiar with Nancy Lieberman's system. We know all the ways Nancy likes to use her and use him. I'm going to take Power this week. I think Ball Hogs come back down to earth. I think Nancy Lieberman takes advantage of the fact that they're such a brand new team. I got Power.
Yeah, they do get Big Baby back. Part of me wants to take Ball Hogs so bad. I think I gotta go with Power. They really do look like, even with Trilogy in there, they do look like they could be one of the 2 best teams in the league, and they're not even in full regular season form yet, in my opinion. So
I agree.
Triplets and Trilogy. Who do we like in that game?
I mean, this is the game of the week, right?
No doubt.
Triplets and Trilogy, this is going to be – this might be the game of the year,
That's a good point. That definitely could be.
Just because of the way that they've been playing. This is, in my opinion, even before last week, this is the best team versus the second best team, and Power might have had a little bit more history behind it, but this game to me is going to be very telling. But, and again, until proven otherwise, how can I pick against the man who just broke the record for the most points in a Big Three game?
Hey, that's hard to argue. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to break this down like more individually because we're gonna get a shot to see Isaiah Briscoe go against the best team in the league now. He's been great. Stack used him in a different way, I guess, to kind of let James White get acclimated within the season. And a part of me wants to pick Trilogy because I just can't imagine.
Part of me wants to pick them too.
I just can't imagine. Is Triplets really good? Like, I could definitely see them going 7-1 again. Are they gonna go 8-0? Like, if Power's not going to beat them, I think the only other team right now that looks capable of doing it has to be Trilogy. But here's where I'm conflicted is because I picked Triplets to lose last week just on a whim.
And it almost happened.
I think I'm going to do it again. I think I'm going to go with Trilogy.
I picked Triplets to lose last week, and I was wrong. We're going to run that back.
Yeah, run it back. I'm just going to double down essentially on my take. I haven't been great at predictions, but if I get one upset, I feel better about myself. Yeah. And I do think Trilogy can do it. It's going to be – there's not a lot of guys that look like you can throw in front of Briscoe without him getting fouled or him scoring. His three-point shot has improved a lot.
I think if there's one team that's best equipped to beat Triplets, you know who I think it is?
Oh, yeah. I'd love to hear it.
I think it's Ghost Ballers.
They have the firepower to match them.
Ghost Ballers have the firepower to match them, and I think if they come out there and they play just that swarming defense that they played against enemies.
With more energy, yeah.
With more energies, I think it could absolutely happen.
I can't wait till that game, man. Hopefully
that's going to be such a fun game.
That game comes on the schedule. Okay, so I got Trilogy. You got Triplets. I'm doubling down on a Triplets loss here. Almost happened, but I blame Royce White for too much shit talking. Tri-State and Ghost Ballers is game 3 on the day. So this week it's going to be all the games in one day is what it's looking like. But Tri-State and Ghost Ballers, game 3 of the day. Who do you got here?
I have Ghost Ballers again.
Mm-hmm.
I think, we're still waiting for that litmus test for Ghost Ballers. when they play another one of the big boys, power, trilogy, triplets, even ball hogs, which is crazy to say. But, so until then, I think Ghost Ballers has had a pretty, I don't want to say easy schedule, but, they've definitely had a beatable schedule. I think that's going to continue to week 3.
Well, there are 2 teams that they played are 0-2, so you kind of look at it from a standings perspective, and yeah, it does look like that. But hey, what I think has really worked in their favor, and we've been talking about it. It's just the energy they bring. They play with a sense of urgency more than anybody in this league, and that's why I got Ghost Ballers as well. I'm not saying that that can't be matched, but it hasn't been matched yet within the first 2 games, and I haven't seen Tri-State bring the type of energy that Ghost Ballers bring. And hell, Mike Taylor's bringing 75% of it. So
maybe except by Royce White as an individual.
Yeah, but that's just a small piece of the cake when it comes to the kind of energy that Ghost Ballers is bringing. And it's really Mike Taylor at the forefront of that. So I got Ghost Ballers as well. Three's Company, 3-headed monsters. Who do you like in that one, real quick?
Three's Company, 3-headed monsters. Now this is a good one, man. This is 2, I think, evenly matched up teams.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna be 3-headed monsters just because of one thing. I think because of size, and Three's Company has Ryan Hollins. But 3-headed monsters, you can have a rotation of Reggie Evans and Mamadou. So I think if they can just take care of business down low in the paint, I think it's gonna be 3-headed monsters.
Yeah, I got 3-headed monsters too, and for that same reason, I think they win in the matchup of bigs. I think there's multiple dynamic guards in this, I should say, on each side. But I think they just win in the battle of the bigs. So I got 3-headed monsters as well. Game 5 on the day is Killer 3s versus Aliens. Both Game 5 and Game 6 feature 0-2 teams, and at least 2 of those teams will get their first win. Who gets their first win in Killer 3s and Aliens?
I'm gonna say Killer 3s. I think there's just a little bit more of a championship pedigree, but I think the winner is going to be the team that comes out more desperate. Because, like I said, if you lose this game, either one of them, if you lose this game, your season's over.
Yeah, I don't think these 2 teams have played each other yet in Big 3's history, so I think this is their first matchup. It's tough for me because on one side, we don't know the extent of the injury to Ronaldo Bachman, who's looked pretty good for them early on.
Yeah.
On the flip side, is Killer 3s looking to add somebody, or do they run with a 4-man rotation because, they're waiting for the return of TJ Watson? That I don't know.
Do we know what's wrong with TJ Watson?
I don't know because he was at a Young 3 event. So I'm not sure. Maybe he had some personal obligations to tend to, and they didn't want to replace him. That's fair. It looks like Mo Charlo is here to stay, which is cool.
Yeah.
I think I got Killer 3s, and and when I'm questioning myself, and I know we're agreeing a lot, but when there's a question, I think you just go with the team that's proved it the most or the longest, and I'm going to go with Killer 3s there. Final game of the day is Enemies and Bivouac. Who do you like?
Well, I think I'm going to take Enemies in this one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is really, a nail in the coffin for me mentally for Bivouac. Just because Bivouac should I don't want to say easily, but Bivouac should beat this team. But they've shown me nothing that they can.
Yeah.
And I think Enemies is, until proven otherwise, a more talented team. I think Enemies has had a brutal schedule to open up the season.
That's true.
And
2 close games, yeah.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, like if Bivouac turns it around, then we're gonna be like, oh my God, like Enemies open up the season against 3 good teams. But I don't see it that way. I see it that Enemies is gonna get their first win here, start to turn it around a little bit.
Yeah, 2 non-competitive games so far for Bivouac. A little unsure if this is the construct of a team that can compete for the playoffs. I got Enemies as well. More so based off, I think Isaiah Austin's going to come out and dominate this. He's got to get more touches. As much as Elijah Stewart, like he was really good. Like you have a lot of confidence in that team. You have more confidence in that team because of what he did. But I'd still like to see Isaiah Austin get a majority because you saw, the game kind of flip in their game against Ghost Ballers when he was really going to work. So I got Enemies as well. Real quick, too, before we wrap up the show and get to our interview on the back end with 3-headed monsters first-round pick Kevin Murphy. Give me an update on your Newcomer of the Year award.
Newcomer of the Year.
Yeah, it's a little tough because last year was easy. It was Joe, obviously, and he never seceded that spot, the number one spot. So who do we got right now going up? I'll give you my three real quick, just because they're kind of in my head and I'm asking you on the fly here. Barbosa is easily my number one. Been really good this year.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
He is a newcomer, despite him being a captain. He is a newcomer. So I got Barbosa as number one. Where it gets hard is my 2 and 3, because I have three guys I feel like that could fit that 2 and 3 spot. But I got to go with the guy who I think looked better this week. I'm not saying I think because he had more of the opportunity, and I think a lot of this award could be based off opportunity, but I got to go with Kevin Murphy.
Yeah.
I know, and maybe there's a little bias because I just found out he's a cool dude. We had a great talk, great conversation in Vegas, but he also looked really good, and I think he's going to have the most opportunity to kind of go after that award and show he's one of the best newcomers in this league. And I think, as we've seen, opportunity is everything. The last one's hard for me because it's between the two Isaiahs. For me, as much as I want to say Briscoe because he has been super impressive, I'm going to go with Isaiah Austin for now. And those are my top three.
Yeah, for me, I think, let me see. As I just scroll through the stats right here. Yeah, I don't think my list differs too much from yours. I think Barbosa is definitely number one. Barbosa is playing like an MVP candidate right now. But for number two, I would say I solidly have Briscoe.
Okay.
I think just the impact that he's had, he didn't play confusingly enough for that first half.
Must have been Lucas's idea. What are you doing, Lucas?
What's going on, Lucas? Let's start that storyline, right? oh my God. But no, I think Briscoe's looked good when he's out there. And I always will give the nod to team success.
That's fair.
The Trilogy right now is playing like an incredible team, so it'll be interesting to see, now here comes a test. How will Briscoe do against triplets? That to me, if you really, if you want to establish yourself as someone who should be in the NBA, who is going to be, with the likes of Barbosa and, guys like that, then you're going to, hopefully he goes out there, he has a great game against triplets. Mm-hmm. And then for three, I would say probably Kevin Murphy, and slight Kevin Murphy over Isaiah Austin. But again, Isaiah Austin hasn't contributed to a win yet.
That's fair. Neither, I guess Murphy has, yeah.
But he's looked damn good, So I think I see – I wouldn't be surprised if I see Kevin Murphy falling out of it, as the season goes on, because I think Kevin Murphy, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if, like you said, they're just going to start running it through him. But on a team with Rashard Lewis and Reggie Evans and Mahmoud Roof, he might not have the same opportunity as Isaiah Austin.
Fair enough.
So I do have to give him credit that what he's done so far.
Mm-hmm. Well, and GP likes to play his newer guys a lot early. And that's what we've seen. We've seen a lot of Murphy, but I think a lot of those guys have great opportunities. We'll just have to see. But through 2 weeks, I do like Murphy at least in that top three conversation. Whether he's at 2 or 3, I think Barbosa is pretty easy, and then it's just a matter of what you look at when it comes to awarding somebody. For you, it's Briscoe. For me, it's Austin. So I kind of slided Briscoe a little bit there, but I think this game will be very telling. So we'll wait and see. That's going to wrap up the first half of the show here. I know it was a long one. We got into all the recaps, predictions, and we updated our newcomers of the year. Stick around for my one-on-one with Kevin Murphy in Vegas. Super cool guy. Like I said, I think I became maybe I told you this off air, but became a big fan of his after our conversation and just watching him live, what he's able to do. So appreciate everyone who's tuned in. Make sure you guys are subscribing, liking, rating 5 stars, commenting. Feedback is always welcomed. And let's get to the interview with Kevin Murphy. Today, we're live on location in Vegas for week 2 of the Big 3, and we're joined by three-headed monsters, first-round pick and professional bucket getter, Kevin Murphy. Appreciate you again joining the show. How's Vegas treating you? Week 2. Got a couple more weeks here.
Man, again, thank you for having me on. But like I was saying, this week was the second week. First week, I didn't know what to expect really. Besides the guys, a lot of guys telling me, man, just the physicality of the league. You know what I'm saying? Everything was going to be very physical. Don't look for the ref to give you anything, and all of that was true. You know what I mean? So you got to learn how to play through a contact, know how to get your shot off, steal through contact. But it's been fun, man. Like I like the competitiveness that the league has.
Yeah, man. Well, didn't seem like you struggled to adapt too much in the first week. Had 19 points your first week, and then today had a big game, which we'll talk about here in a second. First and foremost, how did you learn about the Big 3? You know, there were a lot of guys that felt like that from the outside looking in, guys that don't play basketball, or people like me, maybe that look on. Mm-hmm. A lot of people didn't really know your name as much as maybe these guys within the fraternity of the NBA. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys were talking about you coming up in the draft. You got 7th overall to Rashard Lewis's team. Mm-hmm. How did you kind of learn about the opportunity?
Man, to be honest, Dion Glover.
Okay.
He stays in Atlanta, mm-hmm. and like every summer, all the pros, all the league guys, overseas pros guys that play in the summer, we all play together. Mm-hmm. And so like everybody goes to Jared Jack, Joe Johnson, Lou Williams, like everybody that stays in Atlanta plays in these runs, and I play in the runs also. So. Okay. Like a lot of guys, like I said, a lot of people know my name as far as that, but like people who've seen me play or played against me knows I can play. So I kind of earned the respect from those type of guys, the Joe Johnsons, the Lou Williams, and stuff like that. And so a couple of years ago, I think I want to say 3 years ago, right before COVID hit, mm-hmm. Somebody had went down on this team, 3 Headed Monsters, but somebody had went down, and they was trying to sign me that time, but I couldn't do it because the league said I had to be already in the pool. Okay. You know what I'm saying? And then like this year, Glove was like, man, put your name in. Mm-hmm. And I was blessed enough for Rashard Lewis and GP and them to pick me.
Yeah.
To play with them in the first round. So I mean, it's a blessing, man.
Yeah. What do you think of the league? Not outside of the wins and losses that have happened so far, but more so just like the different traveling experience compared to maybe other professional leagues you played in, just the 3-on-3 aspect of it. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, everything is very, very professional. I done played everywhere. Uh-huh. Like every top league you want to play in, or up and coming kid want to play in, I done played from the NBA to the Euro League, Euro Cup, China. I done played everywhere, and with the Big 3, they treat you up there, like, okay. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Like it's pretty good. They cool. Like the flights and everything, the stay, like everything is very top notch.
Cool. Well, I know a lot of people don't know your name, including myself. Like I said to you earlier at the game, had this guy Jeff from G League TV. Shout out to him. He really follows the G League and the D League, and he was telling us that you and Peter Jackson were kind of like the Dame and CJ when it came to the G League, D League, whatever, and you're just going off. He's just raving about you. So first game you come out, but before that, obviously I'm doing my research, and I want to go through a couple games. I'm not going to go through the whole highlight, but a couple games of you, because this is why all the guys know about you. Apparently, right. Professional bucket getter. Like I said, the first one is here in college, like at Tennessee Tech, which by the way, I don't know how you lived in Cookville once again. Man. But you dropped the 50-pointer. And it's the highest scoring game in NCAA history. What do you remember about this one?
Man, I remember I just couldn't miss, man. like this game, the game before this, I felt like I was killing. I had like 37. The game before, I felt like I was, the moves I was killing, but this game just felt so easy. Like I shot maybe like 23 times and ended up with 50. So like I just couldn't miss. It was just like, I don't know how I was getting open. Like, it wasn't doubling or nothing. It was just, okay, let me do this.
Yeah, right.
Just kept going through it, man. So that was a good game. But like I said, the game before that,
right,
I felt like I was like in that mode. But this game, I was just playing within the game.
It's not your only 50 ball you put up at a top tier level, right? This is one in the G League. You're playing with the Stampede. 51 points. What do you remember most about this one?
So this team, I played with one of the best point guards I ever really played with. Him, like shout out to D-Boss.
Okay.
And Scott Machado. Like we was all on the same team. But I had got there in the middle of the season. I forgot where I was at previous in that season, but I had came, and Pierre was already the guy.
Right.
Pierre Jackson, he was already, you know what I'm saying, that he was averaging like 30. But this game, like This game, I just felt like, man, we was down big the first quarter. Like,
yeah, it shows right here. 44,
yeah, we was down so big. So I got to the everybody, like, it was during that time where everybody thought they was getting called up, this and that. So people didn't really want to, like, mentally they was out of it. So I seen that, I was like, man, you know what? I'm gonna go out here and just play.
Yeah.
Just shoot it, just play. And I ended up making a lot of shots. Ended up getting like 51. But what's so crazy about this game? Pierre Jackson in the locker room after this game, I had 51, right? He came in the locker room that same game and told me, hey man, next game I'm gonna beat that. The next game he came out and had 58.
Wait, he came back to the team?
Man, listen, we playing, me and Pierre on the same court right here. We're playing together.
Okay.
I had 51. We ended up winning this game. I had 51. That same, after that game in the locker room, he came to me like, man, you killed, but I'm gonna beat that next game. I'm thinking he's just talking. The next game, he had 58.
Damn.
He had 58 the next game, and I had 47.
Who are you playing?
I forgot who we was playing, but we was.
They're not playing anymore. You made the
man, we used to kill, and that was a great talent-wise. That team, we had a lot of pieces, man. We had a lot of pieces on that team. A lot of guys who could have played, or who should have got another chance at that next level.
I saw Scott Machado play last year in the TBT. He was nice as hell. Man, him and John Robertson.
I love him, Scott Machado, and D-Boss were some of the best point guards I done played with. Pass first guys, know your spots, know when to get it to you. I love playing with those.
That's cool. I bring that up just because, like I said earlier in the show, you didn't really have a tough time adapting to the Big 3. You put up 19 in your first game. What was kind of the game plan going into week 1? Was it kind of like Rashard and GP were like, we just kind of want to just go out there and do your thing, just kind of get you adjusted and acclimated? Because just from my experience, I've seen GP, he kind of does that usually with newer players on his team. He just kind of wants to get them acclimated. So he plays them a lot earlier in the year, but I'm sure he's never had someone like you put up the most points on the team. Right. So, what were GP, Rashard, and all those guys telling you?
Man, like Rashard, Reggie, like all them guys, Mahmoud, all those guys are great players and better men, off the court. Like, as soon as I got here, GP as well, they welcomed me, They basically told me, look, man, we already know what you can do. We know you're a scorer. We're not going to change nothing about what you do. So go out here and get buckets. You know what I'm saying? So that was one of the first times, like, in my career where, I mean, of course, everywhere I go, I'm a scorer. But that was one of the first time where they was just like, look, bro, you go do what you do.
Yeah, they gave you like the keys.
Yeah, go and do it. So, I mean, the first game, like I said, I was just, trying to fill it out, what I'm saying, see how it is and stuff like that. But made a couple of shots, playing with that ball was a little different.
That's been the word around town. The ball's not everyone's favorite.
Yeah, it's different, man. You got to get used to it. But like I said, this week I kind of got used to it a little bit more. Made a lot more shots. So it was good, man.
Yeah, week 1 you guys got the win against Tri-State. Started 1-0. Today it was a little bit tougher game. Although y'all made a comeback at the very end. That 4-pointer clanked in, which. I don't know if that was the ball or the rim or just.
Definitely the ball. Shout out to my man Jared Jackson. Yeah, it was definitely the ball.
It was a weird shot. Yeah. It looked like it shouldn't have gone in, but you put up 25 points in this one, which is 6 more points than last week. Hit your first 4-pointer. You guys were down early. What were some of the positive takeaways from this, despite the loss? That's obviously a good team and a team that you could see down the road if you make the playoffs.
I mean, for our team personally, we started off slow. You know what I'm saying? We started off like real slow, and then once like the second half hit, we kind of like tried to turn it on, which we did. We came back, brought it back, but by that time it was a little too late. They had a bigger lead. You know what I'm saying? Did we wanted to give them, or did we want them to have?
Yeah.
Going to that second half. So now I know, like, we got to start off strong. If it's me, I got to get the team going early. I have to do that. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing I picked up from today. Like I said, we lost to a good team. They're a pretty good team.
They look pretty good. Yeah.
Jared Jack, Briscoe, both of them guys are hard to guard off the bounce. You know, so all this space, 3-on-3 is a lot of space. So it's no help. So it's kind of hard to guard those guys. They played really well. They got to the cup, got you know what I'm saying, kickouts. A lot of guys made threes, flight, all those guys. So
yeah, they got a little contributions from everybody.
Everybody played well.
Yeah.
Everybody was knocking down shots for them.
Right.
Man. And I'm like, man, I thought the ball was gonna make them miss at least a couple of them. You know what I'm saying? But they was knocking down everything, man.
Man, yeah, they look like a good team. But you know, you and Briscoe had kind of a little back and forth going. You guys were talking, but you also were trading buckets on that end. Just talk about, you know, competing against him today. I don't know if you've played against him before, but just talk about competing against him today. And really it just seems like that's kind of what the Big 3 is about, is that competition and talking back and forth and seeing who can get the best of each other.
Man, Briscoe's a good player, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he can play, he can ball. Like, and that was my first time ever playing against him.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But of course I've seen him, you know, all the like the ball is live, the switch coaches, all the highlights. I've seen many of his highlights on all those platforms, and I know that he can, you know what I'm saying, get that one-on-one game going pretty easily. So I knew that was coming. So I kind of took it as a challenge. I kind of took it as man, we gonna like they already know who he is. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people know who he is. So like it was my time. Like, so like, look, man, like I can hoop too.
Yeah.
Like I can play this game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just because my name not as big don't mean anything.
It will be.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's all that was, and we like we was going back and forth, but it was all in the love of the game. You know
I feel that.
Yeah,
for sure.
I love it. Like I've been talking smack since I've been playing, you know what I'm saying? So I'm used to it.
Yeah.
You know? So
Rashard didn't seem like he liked some of his drives to the basket. He kept saying he was flailing a little bit or flopping a little bit. But
I mean,
hey, maybe that's a conversation for another day or something. You know, the league has gotten a little bit younger. They lowered the age limit to 22. You're pretty much in your prime right now at 31. Do you feel like this is probably the best you feel about your game just throughout your career?
Man, like the last couple of years I've been playing, like I really feel like I've gotten better. I understand the game more.
Mm-hmm.
I know how to pick my spot. I know where to get my shot off there. I know how to score.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You know, coming in, a lot of kids. I have an AAU program back home too. So I coach a lot of kids, teach a lot of kids. But a lot of these kids just don't know how to score.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody think you need the ball in your hand and dribble 15 times to score.
Right.
Like none of them know how to come off a down screen, you know what I'm saying? Pass and go, give and go, you know what I'm saying? Come off a flare screen. So I learned all of that at a young age, but now I'm starting to put it together.
Okay.
Like I can score without taking many dribbles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think that's a good thing for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Kind of like if you're learning a new language, it's almost as if you're not thinking of the English word and then translating. It's almost like translated right away in your head. Is that
right? Yeah.
Is that kind of the same thing?
Like that's basically how it is for me, man. Like it's becoming like I can always score, but it's like coming easy.
Yeah.
Like now it's just like okay.
Yeah, and I really asked that because, well, first off, let me ask you this. You know, you're one of the younger players in the league right now, and for other guys out there that are looking for an opportunity that may not be getting one because, you know, as much as people don't talk about or do talk about it, there are a lot of politics that go into who gets to where and who gets to play at what level. A lot of it's based on opportunity, but for those out there that are a little bit younger and looking for an opportunity or went undrafted and don't think the G League or overseas is their best route, like, what would you say about playing in the Big 3?
Man, it's another opportunity.
Yeah.
It's another platform. Like you never know who's watching.
Yeah.
Like I always took that approach that like me, I was never ranked high in high school. Didn't have all the offers. Went to a small college, beat the odds, got drafted out of a small college. You know what I'm saying? And just took that over to my career. You know what I mean? Like I always live by this motto, which is my what I believe is my motto is bang up, believe and never give up. Like I always, since I was 16, I've been living by that, and that's how I approach everything. Right, to me, this is a opportunity for me to be seen by more people.
Yeah. Maybe
get different looks, different way. Maybe even get a chance to get back to the league. Maybe so you never know. So I always approach it as this could be that next chance, that next big chance for me. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah. Well, too, kind of just to follow up on that, you know, is the ultimate goal to get back into the NBA?
To be honest, man, like I would love to get back. I would love to do it. I would love to be back in there. I think I can play in there. I know I can play in the league. But it's like I tell my friends and family all the time, because everybody always say, man, why you don't try it again? It's a lot of stuff that go into it mentally that you have to be prepared for. Like I was always that guy, like that was always on the cusp. Like you right there. Every GM, every coach, NBA coach I ever talked to, you right there, keep fighting. And to me, I took that as like, okay, I'm gonna keep doing this. So I kept turning down money from bigger jobs overseas, staying in the D League, kept turning down stuff to now I'm in the D League and not getting called up, and I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. It weighs on me. Yeah. So now it's like, man, you know what? I got to the point in my career now. I'm like, man, like I'm happy. I done did it. If the chance ever comes again, of course I'm gonna take full advantage of it. Yeah. But I'm not gonna turn down. I can't turn down no more money at this point. I got a wife and 3 kids. Right. There's no way I can just turn down money overseas now. I mean, even though the money went up in the G League, it's still not.
It's not equivalent to
right. You know,
over there. Right. And you're getting, I feel like, a better opportunity over there because it's not everyone fighting for that spot, or the GMs in the D League and coaches in the D League just looking for that, you know, that next big thing or seeing what you guys can do. You're usually like the main guy over there. I'm sure.
Right. Yeah. That's how that's how I like it. To be honest, you know what I'm saying. To be honest, but me personally, I can adapt to any basketball situation. Any basketball situation, I feel like I can thrive in. Just tell me what I need to do, how I need to do it, and I can pretty much do it. You know what I'm saying? Like and like with me getting older, I learned that too. You know what I'm saying? Coming in, getting drafted as a 2nd round pick, going to Utah, my mindset was, if I'm better than this guy, I should be playing. You know what I'm saying? That's just how I looked at it. And sometimes you gotta, like, it's all about timing, the opportunity, the who you're playing behind, like all that stuff plays a factor. And at the time, I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. Yeah. All I know is, look, I'm better than him. Right. I should be playing. Yeah. But it's not. It don't go like that. Yeah. And now I know.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are learning that too. Just in any profession, it's like it's not always that you're not the best candidate. There's a lot that goes into it. Right. Connections, you know.
Everything.
Yeah, just everything goes into it. So no, that's a good mindset to have. And hey, Cube is really wanting to have more, I guess, homegrown names, I guess, in the Big 3. I mean, maybe that's something you do, just play here in the summers and go overseas, and then as you get older, you get to spend more time with your kids. You just play here in the summers. I mean, that's how I feel like a lot of people are approaching it that are, you know, up there a little bit older than you, maybe like 30, late 30s, early 40s. Yeah. Are like tired of playing overseas and not seeing my kids. So
man, it
gives a lot of options.
It's a lot of older cats in this league that I think can really still play. Like, for instance, like Joe Johnson. Man, you know what I'm saying? Jared Jack, like Coutinho Cat.
But none of those dudes even look old when they're playing.
Like, man, like it's amazing to me, man. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? But I'm sitting there watching, like I was watching Cat today after the game. Like, I love his game. Love it. Fundamentally sound, know how to get his shot off. Not the quickest. Yeah. Kind of like how I play. So, you know what I'm saying? So I love watching him.
Yeah. And he had like a heart issue or something, and somehow came back, got like the right treatment or whatever, and
still playing.
Looks like he didn't miss a beat. It was like he just got like retired and then he got back on the court. Yeah, still playing. Last thing I want to ask you is just about, I kind of want to ask you about your AAU program and BANGUP. I was going to ask you where that name came up, but you already told me that. So that's a dope ass lifestyle to live by. Yeah, second off, you know, what does your AAU program entail? Like, when did you start that, and you know, how's that going ultimately?
So now, like BANGUP is a team. You know, believe and never give up. We have two programs. We're getting our 3rd one. We have a 16 under and a 17 under. Okay. We're gonna get a 9 under for my son. Okay. And my son's I'm gonna start him a team and just grow those kids on the way up. Okay. But this is our 3rd summer. Me and a couple of my brother, me and him went in together and did like put the money up. One of my best friends coaches the team, and stuff cool. Like that. So now this is our 3rd season. Like I said, like this summer we had a great summer. We was ranked like one of the top independent teams in the nation. So you know, we making some noise.
Making some strides.
Yeah, we signed We signed like 6 kids to play college this year.
Nice. Okay.
So yeah, I mean we doing our thing, you know. And
Yeah.
I also got the clothing line with the BANGUP clothing.
Okay.
You can check that out too. Go to bangupclothing.com.
Yeah.
And just check that out also. So you know.
And that's up, giving back to the community and
Trying to, man.
having other people living by your words.
Yeah,
your full
man.
words. That's cool.
I be trying to teach them kids, man. You know, just giving them kids something different. Like you know what I'm saying. It's different when you have somebody from your same community that's done what you're trying to do to come grab you and try to put you under their wing and try to like you know what I'm saying tell you the steps.
Yeah. I asked Mo Space this because he's got an AAU team as well, and I asked this to him a couple weeks ago. But what's something that you try to tell your kids that people didn't tell you growing up? And I asked that, one, just because I want to know, but two, I feel like nowadays a lot of it's about instant gratification. A lot of kids are very impatient. It's hard to teach a little bit more because people aren't wanting to learn. They just want results. They don't want to put in the work. So what's something that you tell your kids that people didn't tell you growing up?
It's a business. Like this game, you gotta handle yourself like a brand and know that you're in a business. You know what I'm saying? Like I learned that late.
Yeah.
I learned that real late. You know, so if I would have had that earlier, probably would have did a little bit better. You know what I'm saying? As far as like sticking in the league a little bit longer.
Right.
But my but you know nowadays it's all about like you said the instant gratification, like this social media era.
Yeah.
Everybody has a highlight film. Everybody, like every kid from 1 to 15 have a highlight tape. You know what I'm saying? Like back then, man, when I was coming up, it was, you know how hard it was to get a ball this life. You know what I'm saying? Highlight tape, man. Like those didn't come by easy. But now every kid has that. Like and what I think is doing, I mean, for one, if those kids are the 5-star kids, the top kids, okay, good. They're gonna perform at the next level.
Right.
But what about these kids who have 20,000 followers and they up here because all their peers see them on these videos and stuff, and then they don't get a scholarship to college, and they paying now. Now they mentally messed up because they think they're a failure.
Man, that's so true.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like it's because every like think about it. Every kid don't make it to the next level.
Yeah.
Every kid don't sign D1. Then the further on, every kid don't go pro.
Yeah.
Let alone go to the NBA.
Yeah.
So what happened when you've been 200,000 followers your whole since you was 15? Now when you turn 20 and you didn't pan out to what you were supposed to be. Now at 20 you think you're a failure.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
If you think about like Zion or like Lamelo, like those are guys that we've seen since they were 15, 14 years old. Like imagine if they didn't pan out.
Right.
Where their psyche would be. You're right.
Right. Like
100% right.
Man, it's so crazy, but I get it though. Like everybody wants to be seen now.
Yeah. It's a hard balance.
Yeah.
It's like how do you showcase yourself without getting too high or too low?
You can't because once you post that video, you get 30,000 views. You the man. You know what I mean? So it's like it's hard, man. It's hard. But the kids who balance it, they'll understand. They get it.
Yeah. Well, I like for your sake, you kind of work in silence. You don't. And I think a lot of older people do because we didn't grow up with social media like right out of our first memory, right?
And it worked out for me.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I don't know too many kids who can do that.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to post a video every time I'm in the gym working out.
Right.
I don't need to do
work.
That. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah.
Some kids feel like if they don't post it, they're not working.
The crazier part is, I'm trying to do some different content, and I've done like vlogs and stuff before. That's 10 times harder to record and do everything you're doing and enjoy what you're doing, or like focus intently on what you're doing, because you're so focused on how it's going to turn out, and your video might turn out, but your career might just be
shitty.
I mean, just plain and simple, it might be shitty. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So.
But they'll get it. You live and you learn.
Yeah, for sure, and that's why I like that you're giving back and telling those kids now, like, hey, just make sure you're aware of all that. It's all fun and games, but once you get to a point. All right. Appreciate you coming on, man. Good luck next week. We'll be back here in Vegas.
Yes.
So enjoy the Vegas life for a little bit. What do you do when you're here? You mostly just chill?
Yeah, man. Mostly just like last weekend I had my wife out. We did other things. We went to of course the malls.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? did a little shopping. Went out to a little lounge downstairs. hung out. You know what I'm saying? Today we just played cards with some of the guys.
Oh, that's what's up.
You know, just chill. You know, I just like being around the guys. You know, for some of these OGs that's been in the league, man, just hearing the stories and just being around. I just like that atmosphere.
That's cool.
All right, everybody. That was our interview, or should I say, that was Anthony's interview with Kevin Murphy in studio. Really cool to have him there, and you get the opportunity to talk to him. You know, so it sounds like, dude, it sounds like you had a really fun week in Vegas. Yeah, am I wrong?
I mean, if you don't have a fun weekend in Vegas, I'd be surprised. It's hard not to. A lot of tempting things. But also got just to meet a lot of the guys that we've had on the show, or meet guys for the first time, and see a lot of celebrities in the building. So it was a really cool time. I'm very thankful to the Big 3. Can't say thank you enough for them. Very appreciative for the opportunity, and hopefully it's not my last one.
Definitely.
Our last one, really, I guess.
Right. Hopefully it's, my first. But but until then, listen, we appreciate everybody who's listened. It's, I'm just, again, so happy that we finally have Big 3 games to talk to. I don't want to dwell on that too much because we are in season, but, I appreciate everybody who's listening. And if you're new, please make sure to be subscribing, liking everything, giving us feedback, talking to us on socials. I say we're pretty sociable people. We always like to interact with everybody who's commenting and stuff. So, feel free to do that. We appreciate everybody who's listening on Apple, Spotify, Google, your preferred podcast platforms, checking us out on Dash Radio, watching us on YouTube. Until then, guys, we'll see you later.